Hi, I'm Temple Harrison with the Mississippi Forestry Commission, and we're going to go over some of the objectives for the forestry portion of the Envirothon competition. We're going to start with pacing, a linear distance, knowing how long your personal step is so that you can measure distance and determine how far you've gone or go as far as you need to with a certain direction. Orlando and Chris are going to pull out a distance of 66 feet. 66 feet is known as a chain in the forestry world, and it's a unit of measure used by foresters and land surveyors to measure distance. In our case, the chain is necessary to get height of a tree with a Biltmore stick. So we need to know what our own personal pace is in order to know how far we walked. All right, and now that they've measured out 66 feet, you can actually measure out any distance you want to determine your personal pacing. But in this case, we're using the 66 feet since that's how far we need to go to measure the height of the tree. All right, Justin's going to start walking his 66 feet to determine his own personal pace. He's going to start with the center of his feet at the flag or at the beginning point. And then he's going to start stepping with either his right foot or his left foot, whichever one he starts with. When the back foot hits the ground, he will count that as one full pace. For instance, if he starts with his right foot, when his left foot hits the ground again, that is one. And then he'll count 2, 3, 4, 5 every time his foot hits the ground. All right, Justin, you want to start? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, was that 12, Justin, to the flag? All right, if you notice, he kept a consistent, even stride. So you'll want to practice this and do it at least 3 or 4 times. Get the average of the number of paces that it takes you to travel the 66 feet. Right. Some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so now that Justin knows it takes him 12 paces to travel 66 feet, he can figure out what his average pace distance is. His takes 12 paces, so his feet per pace is 5 feet and 5.5 feet. So in that case, if Justin took 10 steps, he would have traveled 55 feet.
Today, Temple is going to show you the basic how to use a compass. And using a compass in the forestry part of it, we use it to navigate. We use it to sight in on a tree or either a barren or an aspen. So it's a side direction to get us to and from our plots or to a distance to a road. All right, the compass needle often is red and black or red and white. Always point towards the earth, the magnetic North Pole. The magnetic needle floats freely if the compass is held level, parallel to the ground. The compass housing has a number of ticks and marks and letters. The numbers run from 0 to 360 degrees. The number of degrees in a circle. The letters say N for north, S for south, E for east, and W for west, representing north, south, east, and west. The base plate has a direction of travel of the arrow. You point the direction of the travel. The arrow will then direct you the way that you want to travel. And also you use the mirror to sight in on the way you travel. Some compasses have inches or millimeter marks on the edge of the compass. These are used with a map scale to determine the distance between 2 points. This is covering in this event. All right, this time Temple will be sighting in on Grant. Looking at her compass, she will turn the dial, and then she will line up the red needle inside the red and the black needle inside the magnetic, pointing magnetic north. All right. She will also use her mirror and the sight to sight in the Pacific exact point to where Grant is. Look like the sight is 273.
You can also use the compass to go in a particular direction that you're given. This might be an option that this may be something that you're asked to do on the Envirothon test. For instance, if we wanted to go 290 degrees, I set my dial to 290 degrees using the top tick mark. Then holding the compass level and using my mirror to see the base plate, I move myself and the compass until the red magnetic north needle lies inside the red needle on the base plate. Then holding the compass level and using the sights, I travel straight in that direction. Okay, this is called a Biltmore stick. It's used for tree measurement. We can determine the diameter of a tree, and also one side of the Biltmore stick is called a merit hypsometer, which can give us the height of the tree. Okay, to find diameter of a tree, we're going to make sure that we're on the tree scale side of the stick. The opposite side is a log scale. We want to make sure that we're on the tree scale side. The directions are right here on the stick. Hold stick level 25 inches from the eye against the tree at a height of 4.5 feet. The Biltmore stick itself is 25 inches long. So as we measure the tree, we'll explain how to determine how far you're holding the stick and exactly how high you need it. One of the important things to keep in mind when using the Biltmore stick to measure diameter is that you measure diameter at 4.5 feet from the ground. This is called diameter at breast height, but that's not always at the same place for different people. So you want to make sure you know where 4.5 feet hits you, so without the use of a tape you can put the Biltmore stick in the correct spot. Grant, can you show us 4.5 feet? In Grant's case, that is approximately his breast height. Justin's going to measure the diameter of this pine tree with the Biltmore stick. He's going to hold the stick 25 inches from his eye, which in Justin's case is approximately the length of the stick. So he's going to hold the stick flat against the tree at DBH, which remember is 4.5 feet from the ground, on the uphill side of the tree. If you have a tree that's got higher ground on one side or the other, you want to make sure you measure on that uphill side. Closing one eye and keeping his head still, Justin will square the left side of the stick up with the left edge of the tree. Then moving only his eyes, he reads the diameter from the right side of the stick, also square with the right side of the tree. And that tree looks to have a diameter of 18 inches. We also use the Biltmore stick to measure height of the tree. The edge of the Biltmore stick is what's called a merit hypsometer. The directions again are right here on the stick itself. It says to stand 66 feet from the tree, plumb the stick 25 inches from the eye. Again, the stick itself is 25 inches long. Line up the end of the stick with the stump height and read the number of 16-foot logs, which are here. 1, 2, 3. The stump of the tree differs depending on the equipment. most logging equipment now cuts a pretty short stump, so you can line up the bottom of the Biltmore stick almost level with the ground, maybe leaving 6 inches or so. Grant's going to measure the height of this pine tree with the Biltmore stick. He starts by standing at the midpoint of the tree and then traveling and counting his paces for his 66 feet or chain distance. Okay, Grant's going to measure the height of the tree with the Biltmore stick. Standing 66 feet away from the tree, he holds the stick up and lines the bottom of the stick up with almost ground level, maybe leaving a couple of inches at the bottom of the tree. Then, not moving his head very much, he moves his eyes with one eye closed up the stick to measure the point where of merchantable height, which in some cases would be an 8-inch top, but in other cases may be to the point where there are limbs or some other defects keep you from having any more merchantable timber in the top of the tree. In this case, Grant, what do you have?
Got limbs, and I got 2.5 logs.
He gets about 2.5 logs between the first live limb and the second group of limbs there on that tree, which we are calling merchantable height. Now, to determine the board foot volume of the tree, or the volume of the wood in that tree that we measured, we go to our diameter, which was 18 inches, and down to we got 2.5 logs on there. We're going to go, just for purposes of getting our volume, we're going to go to a full 2-log tree. On the test, also, you'll want to use whole logs rather than half logs. So a 2-log tree with an 18-inch diameter has 164 board feet of actual usable wood in it.
One of the things on the Envirothon test is figuring out the different various and types of cruising methods. One of the methods is 100% tally. The 100% tally cruise is when basically you measure every tree in a small area, or 1 acre. You try to figure exactly what the volume is on that acre. You use 100% tally. The second cruise that most foresters use is a fixed plot radius cruise. Now, in that fixed plot radius cruise, you pretty much use something like a 1/10 acre or 1/5 acre. And sometimes when you're even age stand, like a pine plantation, you may use a 120 acre plot fixed radius to measure those trees because they're even age. A lot of times when you're in big hardwood, big pine timber, and you will use the 1/5 acre. So the basic concept of the cruiser depends on what type of timber and what type of products and how well you want to do your cruise. Using a 1/10 acre cruise, basically if you got 10 acres, you want to put at least 10 plots on there that represent the whole entire 1 acre. And then your blower factor, you'll blow it up by 10. You'll take all your volume that you got and you'll blow it up by 10. The third cruise is called a prism. We mostly use a 10 factor prism, sometimes use a 15, and some people use a 20. But here in the South, we normally use a 10 because every time we sight in on one tree, which is kind of based off the size of the tree, that means that over the entire acre, there's 10 more trees that's included in that fixed radius of using that 10 factor prism. And also we use the prism to determine basal area to see how many the stocking of the different trees that's in plantation. Also help us go behind and check the logger to see how well a job they do when they thin a tract of timber. So those are the 3 methods of how we cruise timber here in the South. So at this point, we're going to do a little demonstration on a fixed radius plot cruise. And we actually, for this demonstration, we're going to use a 1/10 acre, which is the radius is 37.2. And so what that gives us is we'll start in the northern direction and we'll rotate around clockwise. So at this time, we're going to have a demonstration. So at this point, Justin is going to put down on the ground a pin, represent plot center. And the terminal radius, we will use a logger's tape to pull out 37.2 feet. And this is a 1/10 acre plot cruise. And we're also going in a northern direction. And at this point, we will pin the ground, another flag. Then after pinning that flag, we will pick the tape back up and we will go in a clockwise direction. Everything that's visible in this clockwise direction will be measured. And he's using a logger tape at this point to measure diameter and breast height. Now, when cruising timber of any size, you have different products and different sizes. We have submerged trees, which we call puckwood, and the diameter start at 5 inches and run to 8 inches. When taking your data for your plot, your radius plot, you have several different emergeable classes. You have a submerged tree, which is the tree that Grant is standing by, and really is on a 5-inch diameter. So that would be considered as a submerged tree. You want to measure that tree at all. All right, the next tree that Grant is measured, it would be considered as a saw timber. 20-inch saw timber. And the diameter class start at 14 or greater for saw timber. Now this time, Justin wouldn't be measuring a chipping saw tree, which is a pine tree. And its diameter start at a 8-inch diameter all the way up to a 14-inch diameter. Most of the chipping saw trees that go to the chipping saw mill are used to make 2x4s or 1x4. And your bigger saw timber trees go for making veneer lumber like plywood and some Pacific and furniture. And also you same thing for pine. You have those same type classes for hardwood, which is puckwood, saw timber. You don't have chipping saw for your hardwood species in this fixed radius plot. All right, next Justin will measure a pine puckwood size tree, and the pine puckwood diameter starts at 5-inch diameter all the way up to an 8-inch diameter. But keep in mind that some puckwood can also go up higher than a 12-inch diameter, depends on may have fusiform or some type of defect. Continuing with our fixed radius plot, now Chris is measuring a hardwood puckwood tree, which diameter start at a 5-inch and go all the way up to an 8-inch. And puckwood, majority of puckwood go to the mill to be chipped to make paper or other paper products. Now Chris is moving on to a hardwood saw timber tree. This tree right here also diameter start at a 14 and go all the way up to greater, like a 30-inch diameter. A hardwood saw log are used to make some of the veneer furniture, the veneer cabinets, and etc. Chris is finna use an increment bore to bore into this puckwood tree. Sometimes we use an increment bore to determine age, and also we use an increment bore to determine the 5 and 10 year growth in a stand. Now Chris has pulled out a core sample and he's about to attempt to count the growth rings. When counting the growth ring, you want to start at the center of the pith of the tree, and you want to count the darker color rings. The darker color rings represent the fall time when the trees basically at rest or dormant season, and you'll count all the way back out to the end. This stand appears to be about 60 years old.
To prepare for the forestry portion of the Envirothon competition, be sure and read all of your objectives. Google and research key terms and words that you don't know, and you should do well on the test. Part of the on-site portion involves tree identification. This is a really good resource, the Mississippi Trees book. If you don't have a physical copy of the Mississippi Trees book, there is an app, Mississippi Trees app, put out by Mississippi Forestry Commission and the Extension Service, that you can download for free, and it has very good descriptions and pictures of those common trees that are on your list to identify. Also, one of the other objectives for tree identification on the test is using a key to identify trees that are more unusual. A tree key we usually call a dichotomous key. That means that it will ask you two questions and you choose either or, and then go to the appropriate next number to narrow down your choices and identify trees based on their leaves or flowers or bark or other characteristics.
Today we're going to talk about some of the equipment that is used in forestry and also fighting wildfire. Today I have a hard hat that we use to protect our head, our Nomex shirt, and our Nomex pants that we use when we're fighting fire. Sometime in forestry we had to use an aerial map to give us a point or location to look at the timber type. So this is an aerial photograph. Also in mass timber, we use an increment board in the process of measuring, determine age, and also determine growth. This piece of equipment right here is a Santo chronometer. We use that to determine sometimes slope. Sometimes we use it to determine the height of the tree, the one that we are measuring, the total height and the measurable height. We call this a D-tape. D-tape is used to measure the diameter of the tree. Also, more genuine and easy purpose, we have a logger's tape, which we can pull out 75 feet. And also we can use it on the other side to measure diameter at breast height, which is DBH. Also, we have different types of roller flagging that are used in management timber. Some of them use for boundary line, some of them use the mark for a timber boundary line, or SMZ flagging. Here I'm holding a chainsaw. Chainsaw, we use it to cut down trees, remove any type of debris from road that may be constructing our way into a fire. So this is a chainsaw. Here we have an axe on one side and a pickaxe on the other side. It's a combination tool to use to cut down little slags and stumps, also to dig around roots to put the fire out. Then this is called a fire flap. We use the flat flap to swirl out the fire. Some steep areas we had to use a rake where bulldozer can't go. This is called our fire rake. Basically, we rake the litter down to bare dirt. We're controlling fire. Sometimes we had to fight fire with fire. We had to use a drip torch to light a backfire to cut off the head fire. This is a drip torch. Once the fire's over, sometimes trees get destroyed. We use a dibble bar. Dibble bar is used to plant new trees into the ground. And this is a dibble bar.
If you have any other questions about preparing for the forestry portion of the Envirothon competition, you can call me, Temple Harrison, at 662-417-7492, or
you can call Orlando. My number is 601-481-5998, or you can visit our website at www.mlc.ms.gov.